Pretty good. Yeah, not too bad. I mean, I just did some painting and have been doing a lot of creative stuff, planning a studio visit at the end of the month and some videography work and stuff to be done and such. So, yeah, keeping busy as usual, but pretty good overall, I would say. How about you? That's a that's an interesting morning. That's so funny. That makes me think of recently I saw a story that a friend had posted on Instagram about being in Thailand, and he was walking around the dirt roads or whatever, and he came across this rooster that was just standing in the middle of the road, and he went up to it and started videoing it and like, asking he was, like in the video, he was like, "Is it you that was waking me up this morning at 6 o'clock?" Da, da, da." 'Cause I guess he'd rented a villa nearby or something, and then he walked over the rooster started walking off into the side of the road in the bushes, and then he saw that there was, like, a whole family of them and stuff, so I thought that was cute and kind of, like, extremely random, but, yeah, I mean, it must be interesting in other places where you know, these animals just kinda, like, roam free all the time. Here, that doesn't really happen so much because like, I'm in the city, um, but, yeah, I think it's probably more interesting to me because it's more novel to me now, but for you, if it's something that you're, like, coming across animals all the time, it must be kind of annoying maybe sometimes. That's funny. Well, hey, interesting time for me.
What's going on? How y'all feeling? I'm hearing the stories and I'm like, wow, that's beautiful. That's awesome. I'm so glad you tapped in and looked it up. Yeah, you got to because of the alignment of it. And well, that animal is always also connected with time and the importance of audacity in the face of challenge and all of that. So speaking about your week you had, how you overcame that after you were able to get and really receive back your energy, your space, the people that you were able to talk to, and you know, I mean, and then you see the rooster today. Like that's on cue, and it's all you. Like it's all you. It's all your energy. Um, Being renewed is the word that's coming through. So this is so good. And after the pink moon. Yeah, this one, to be honest, so many celestial events led up to this pink moon. It was so bright. I don't know if anybody got to, see it, but I mean, it was transformative in under the light. Anybody who recognized anything felt something. Trust me, it was that type of light. So
It
it's all
actually was
good.
really bright. I got a nice
Yeah.
picture of it. I was out for a walk or whatever on Saturday night and got a good picture of it. And then I saw a picture of a lion in somebody's window too when I was on my way to the subway, which was funny. I took a picture of it too. But it was aligned though too because I did a womb healing container workshop and ceremony with my friend Z, who I think I mentioned in the last space that I was in, who she does energetic healing and stuff like this. I mean, she's an oracle, but she's a teacher. But yeah, the womb healing ceremony was really, really powerful stuff. I think it's the biggest one she's ever done. There was about 2,000 people for the workshop online. So, really proud of her and excited to be a part of that community and see what else comes of it.
That's huge. That's a lot of power. Like to yeah,
Yeah. Z
that's a lot of
is
transformative power.
yeah, she's special. She's definitely, I mean, we all are, but I just her story is really powerful and she's done a lot of work to build the life that she has now and I'm just really proud of her and just feel blessed to have known her for so long. Like we went to high school together. We weren't friends in high school, but we became friends more after high school, like around 18, 19. Um, she actually dated one of my good friends who was also the guy who actually gave me all the information on the Keylontic science. So a lot of her teachings are actually built on the same information and principles and things like that too. But she's, much further in her sort of uh, evidence of practice and things like that. Like she's been doing it for years. She also has a book that she's written, um, which is available, I think, on Amazon. Um, and yeah, she does multiple healing containers, more directed towards women throughout the year. But her husband is also starting to do a brothership, a solar brothership container. I think he's doing his first one this year. So, yeah, like I said before, I'm happy to connect that information with anybody if anybody would like it. Um, so I think we left, yeah, I think we left her on page 18, 17, 18. Um, so yeah, it starts with the around the heritage, or there's like a chart before that, but um I have a sort of like summarization of the content within the pages from like 18 to 25. Um, so I can always just read that whenever's best. Yeah, because there's a lot of charts, so I figure maybe it'd be better to do that for this section.
And Rex, you said you're on page 17 or 18. I finally got it downloaded and I can follow
Hmm.
along. Help read if you want.
Yeah, yeah, 17, 18. Let me see here. So, oh, from the last space that we did with this? Hmm. Well, I mean, all of this information is full of codes, so I wouldn't be surprised if that continues to like happen, you know? Oh man. I mean, it's funny because this is only like this is such like a base level of knowledge that, once you get into the actual like working of the energy of this stuff, I think that, that could be really impactful if you're already kind of feeling connected to it, which, would make sense. No, it's all good. Okay, so this part, so from pages 18 to 25 in the Architects of Light, it basically is focusing on the type 3 indigo. Um, I asked Thoth to give me a simplified overview, so that we could kind of talk about it, because we can talk about, like, we can go through the heritage page, but then I think there's like quite a few DNA strand matrix images that are also kind of like diagrams, which we can post in the comments for people to visually look at, but it's a little difficult to sort of like read through those in an orderly fashion. So that's why I just figured it'd be easier to get the little summary kind of going. Um, so I'll start with that, and then maybe Callie can help us read through the heritage page after. Um, yeah. So, understanding type 3 indigo children. So, type 3 indigos are described as unique individuals who embody two distinct consciousnesses within a single body. So, there's the Orifim avatar, which is considered the quote unquote light aspect and originating from a higher dimensional lineage. And then there's the Nephilim avatar, which is viewed as the dark aspect. It's associated with a lineage that has experienced genetic distortions, essentially. So the dual occupancy can lead to internal conflict, as the two avatars may have differing intentions and energies, right? So when we post the images of the DNA strand matrices, it does go into like details of what each of them kind of represent, and what kind of like associations or tendencies the different like DNA strands of indigos might have. Um, so this one, behavioral and emotional characteristics. So due to the internal struggle between the Orphem and the Nephilim aspects, type 3 indigos may exhibit things such as emotional turmoil, feelings of fear, depression, confusion stemming from the internal conflict, behavioral extremes, which can be shifts between being exceptionally well behaved to exhibiting rebellious or destructive behaviors, and then sensory sensitivities, which is a heightened sensitivity to the environment, which can lead to overstimulation, right? So in some cases, the Orifim avatar may suppress certain Nephilim DNA codes to maintain balance, which can result in conditions like autism as the individual becomes less engaged with the external stimuli. So the purpose and the healing. So the primary mission of type 3 indigos is to facilitate the healing and integration of the Nephilim genetic codes by restoring DNA sequences, working towards reactivating dormant DNA strands to achieve a harmonious state, and balancing energies, encouraging the quote unquote light aspect to guide and heal the dark aspects within. This process is believed to contribute to the broader goal of realigning and evolving the human genetic blueprint. So, here are some support strategies. So, to assist type 3 indigos in their journey, the following approaches are recommended. So, structured environment, providing clear boundaries and a stable routine to reduce the internal conflict is helpful. Then therapeutic practices, so engaging in energy healing modalities such as Kathara grid work, for example, to support DNA activation and emotional balance. And then compassionate understanding. So recognizing the complexity of the inner experiences and just offering empathetic support. So, in essence, these pages highlight the intricate nature of type 3 indigo children, emphasizing their role in the evolutionary process of human consciousness and the importance of supportive environments to aid in their unique challenges and missions. No, no, this is just a summary of the pages 18 to 25. So, Callie, I was saying we could get her if she wants to read to I think it's page 18 for heritage. because there's a lot of diagrams and stuff. So I just think it's easier to have the summary and then just post the images.
Yeah, so definitely that. Sorry, that what you have, Rax, is dope information because I'm looking at the pages and I'm like, oh yeah, we needed that because it's a lot of charts, like you said, and breakdowns, and each of these um, instances that you're talking about. I mean, there's so much information here. Like the detail is insane. So yeah. I don't know if you'll be able to like post that for us or, make it available if you
Yeah,
want.
for
Okay.
sure.
But I do have page 18, the heritage. To appreciate the indigos, we must remember our heritage. The contemporary human lineage began 560 million years ago with the Turanuism race of Tara in HU2 dimensions 4 through 6. So let's stop right there. Turaniism is a race of Tara in HU dimensions 4 through 6. So, like dimension 4, 5, 6. Other stellar races existed for many billions of years before the Turaniism experiment began. The Turaniism lineage was created to allow a new evolutionary option for ancient stellar races who had experienced genetic fire letter scalar wave digression and could no longer complete transmutative ascension out of the time matrix. So, do we need to break that first? That's just the first paragraph under heritage. So, I guess, in the way that I'm understanding it, this is just giving us the reasoning behind these hybrid races and why there would be a need for, uh, the transmutation. Because, as the last sentence said, that the stellar races who had experienced genetic, and we talked about scalar wave and fire letters not last week, but the week before, digression. So this is because of digression and can no longer complete the transmutative ascension out of the time matrix. So now the hominid life in our time matrix began in pre-matter systems of the HU4, the Lyran star system, the cradle of Lyra. Life was seeded into this time matrix by one primary ultra-terrestrial consciousness collective called the Melchizedek family. The interstellar interdimensional drama began with the Elohi and Seraphi Melchizedek avatar collectives in HU4. Many races of both families suffered fire letter genetic digression. One part of the ultra-terrestrial Elohi family was commissioned to keep the proper ascension fire letter genetic sequences alive for all the races in the time matrix. This group was called the Emerald Order of the Azurite Council. The Emerald Order Elohi, seated in the etheric matter Anuhazi race in HU3 Lyra, which later fled to the Sirius system. The Lyran Sirius Anuhazi seeded the Azurite race in the H2 Sirius system. In seeding the Turaniism human or Tara, on Tara, many eons later, the Lyrian Syrian Emerald Order Anuhazi Azurite genetic imprint was used as the seed for the new Turaniism race. Genetic fire, letter coding from the 12 interstellar seed races was combined with the Elohi Anuhazi Azurite imprint, creating a hominid form with 48 DNA strands, fire letter sequences, the Emerald Sun DNA matrix of the Emerald Order Orphan. From these came a smaller version carrying 24 DNA strands, the double diamond DNA matrix of the Orphan. The Orifim Lyra Syrian Turianism became the Templar solar initiates of Tara, the elder race of the Turaniism 12-strand diamond sun DNA matrix. Indigo children are incarnate members of the Orifim elder race in hybrid ET elder race cloister human form. So I'm about to stop right there. That was page 18, by the way. Um, so, whoa. The combinations. That's all I'm gonna say. Rex.
Yeah, no, it's so interesting, right? Um, yeah, I find this stuff to be so interesting. I know that, we're kind of like spiritual nerds right now doing this, but I uh I tend to be a nerd with like most things that I find interested in or interest in. But I want to talk about the council that was mentioned, the Emerald Order of the Zerite Council, because they don't really go into that a little, like they don't really go into too much detail in that section about it. So I just wanted to like go into that a little bit. So just for people that, aren't as familiar or anything. So the Emerald Order is believed to be one of the oldest and most advanced guardian races in the universe, originating from higher dimensional realms, specifically from the 15th dimension and beyond. They are seen as protectors of universal law, natural order, and free will. So the Azurite Council is an interdimensional group or council created by the Emerald Order. So the main job of the Azurite Council is to assist planetary systems like the Earth in their evolution, healing, and ascension process. So, uh, we're considered peacekeepers and guardians, acting as spiritual guides and teachers, and involved in genetic and consciousness rehabilitation, helping beings reconnect to their higher dimensional DNA templates. So, why azurite? So, azurite is symbolic. It's a deep blue crystal for, crystal lovers in here. Anyone that knows crystals, you should know azurite, right? It's associated with the third eye activation, psychic development, and truth. It's very in line with the council's mission to awaken consciousness and restore higher knowledge to humanity. So the connection to humanity, between these groups, they're said to work with advanced soul groups like the Indigo Children, like we're talking about today, who have come to Earth to help with grid work, DNA repair, and the planetary ascension cycle, like we're going through right now. So, according to Asha Yana Diane, who's the one that is the author of this book and many of the books and teachings in the Keylontic Science group. So according to her, many starseeds and indigos have contracts with the council. They come in with advanced DNA, like we're talking about, sometimes 12 strand or more, to help anchor higher frequencies into the Earth's grid. Protection of the cosmic divine blueprint is the core purpose, to keep the original undistorted codes of life and consciousness safe, as well as DNA rehabilitation to help beings heal distortions that have been introduced by the fallen races or misaligned ET agendas, as well as planetary stewardship, assisting Earth through her spiritual ascension timeline. So, yeah, just to go into that a little bit more. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, so this is all part of the MCEO freedom teachings. Keylontic science is basically derived from the MCEO freedom teachings, which is the Melchizedek Emerald Order. Um, so it's like it says, there's many contracts like of individual soul groups that have agreed to, do different work essentially here with the Emerald Order and the Azurite Council. Um, now it's like, depending on where you fall in terms of the DNA and all this different stuff, ancestral kind of more related stuff, um, you'll have, different access to different aspects of these kinds of tools and energy work purposes and stuff like that. It's true. It is, but it's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah. I mean, anybody that I know that has taken this information and actually introduced it successfully into their own energy work practices and then been able to use that to actually build up their life and build their mission out. There's really only two people, well, okay, three, I should say, that I know more like personally that um, are doing this and have been for a few years. And those people have basically completely surrendered their entire lives to spirit. So, and obviously, like that looks different for everybody, but when somebody has gone through a massive transformation because of where they've been and where they are. Um, so, yeah, it's definitely very deep work. There's definitely like I hold it all in a lot of reverence, and it took me a lot of time to actually really understand fully and realize like the amount of value that is within this information if you were to start to embody it and be able to effectively then sort of uh, unlock certain things for other people and allow them to start to do that for themselves in a way. Yeah, it's a powerful tool, definitely for introspection and self exploration and such. And of course, connecting with spirit. Oh, yes, definitely. We love kitties. Bastet, yeah, I think that's the Lyrians, right? Yeah, that whole situation. Yeah. Well, it is interesting sometimes. I don't know. I mean, some people like read people by their facial structures and how they represent certain different animals. Like I've heard of energy readers that is kind of like a specialty that they have where they can sort of access like akashic records and things like that once they can figure out what sort of animal group that you might be tied to. um but yeah, that's an interesting thing. I don't specialize in that, but it seems interesting. Yeah, that stuff is all quite interesting. I wish that I had more information about my indigenous ancestors from Trinidad, like the Carib people, because my grandfather was Carib. Um, but there's not really a lot of information about them because unfortunately Christopher Columbus, when he came to the island, he took uh, preference over the different indigenous groups that were there. There was about eight different sort of indigenous groups that were there before Columbus was there, and basically the Arawak people were the preferred indigenous group for Columbus and the colonizers that were there. So they basically just said that the Caribs were um, cannibals and savages, and so they didn't really get to keep much of the culture. And unfortunately, my grandfather died when I was 12, so I didn't really get to speak with him that much or get to know him very much. But I will be going to Trinidad sometime soon. Ideally, hopefully before the end of the year. There's a very old, if not the oldest, Indigenous festival that happens in Arima, in Santa Rosa, um, in Trinidad. That is sort of it's the Saint Rose festival basically that happens. Um, but the indigenous people that are still there are integrated into the festival because essentially the Catholic Church allowed for them to keep some of their rituals in that festival because they saw the Arawak people as more civilized or proper. Um, but in my opinion, I think it was just because they were more willing to be colonized, to be honest, and also the Arawak and the Carib people fought a lot. Um, so I think the Arawak people probably just saw their chance to sort of, keep some of their culture and not be completely colonized. So they probably took it by, you know, kind of selling out their other brothers. But, I'm just guessing because that's sort of what happens in a lot of, or has happened in a lot of places with indigenous groups. So, but I'm really, um, excited to go to Trinidad and check out this festival and see what these practices are that they still keep. I know obviously dancing, incense offerings, parades, all these kinds of things are a big part of it. But I've never been to one myself, so it would be nice to yeah, be able to go connect with that and try to learn more also about the Carib people and their culture because um, yeah, that's part of my family. So it would be cool to know more about that. Well, and dehumanizing them so that they can take their land, right? Because that's exactly what happened. They just made it seem like, oh, these people, they're savages and they don't know any better. And we have to come and, build homes and, yeah, introduce Catholicism and set them free because they're, all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, but then conveniently a few years later, all of their land was owned by the British government and Spain. So, like, I don't know. Anyways. Well, that was the inversion, the way that they did it, right? That's the inversion because they did it in a way that was, keep the quote unquote bloodline pure as opposed to like actually, finding suitable outside partners that would be complementary to your, family that's not your family, obviously, because we know about the history of the royal family and all the inbreeding, right? So I don't want to go into all that, but that's terrifying.
Hi, good morning. Yeah, oh yeah, they had painful, horrible diseases too from all of that.
Well, it probably makes sense. It's like unnatural, right? Like
Yeah.
unfortunately, the way that and they were indoctrinated and enslaved, obviously, but you know, just kudos to any of those royal family members that did not comply and broke free from that, because that's a certain level of perversion that I hope, just dies out essentially.
Well, yeah, because there's just not enough genetic diversity for the all of the stuff to match up.
Yeah, and you know what's funny, because when I was diving into the heritage stuff the other day, Trinidad and Tobago and stuff, because that's where my mom is from. She was born there, and I have like family there and stuff. Um, like my grandmother's from there, my grandfather's from there, and when I was looking at different points of 17, 1800s, different waves of colonization from like Spaniards to then the British, French. Um, One of the reasons why they said that the Carib people, which is like part of my family ancestry, that they weren't suitable or as suitable as some of the other indigenous groups was because they actually were. Um, there was a lot of mixed Carib people. There was a lot of um, essentially like nobody was like really pure Carib even by the 1800s because they often picked partners outside of their like lineages. So there was some, that were both Carib, Carib couples, but there wasn't many. It was a lot of mixing and stuff. So it was said that by the early 1900s, there was only really 50,000 descendants of Carib people, but all of the people were of mixed race. So because of that, the colonizers and stuff that came there just thought, oh well, they're not gonna, they don't believe in the same ideals either, right? Like of keeping the bloodline or anything like that. So I think they also just saw it as a threat, probably too in a way, but um, I find it to be pretty interesting. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Hmm. Right. Right. Mhm. Oh, yeah. And Trinidad is oil rich too. It's crazy. There's still oil rigs there. Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's sad when you think about how common that story is actually. You know, and I mean that's why, that's why I am really, passionate about the sort of community work that I do, like with the collective, the arts collective, that's sort of prioritizing BIPOC, you know, artists and things like that. And also just getting more involved with like indigenous organizations locally, stuff like that. Like there's a lot of community centers that, they do different sort of community programs, or also just, doing outreach for street work help, especially targeting like indigenous youth and individuals and stuff like that. Cause yeah, there's a really big gap that still just exists, unfortunately, because of the sort of, well, structured poverty that was introduced to the indigenous people just everywhere, worldwide. So, yeah, I think it's important for us to talk about that stuff sometimes, and to, remember how we can contribute to the, better side of the offset of all of that. Um, but yeah, even here, like there's an organization called Water First that is a nonprofit organization that basically um, tries to maintain clean water on the reserves in Canada, because the government does not fund that and they don't do it themselves. So there are times where, like on the reserves, even just here in Canada, this is not a third world country, but they'll have no access to clean water, and they'll have to, um, get like a water truck delivered for the residents, which they can't always afford. It depends on when it happens and the budgets at the time. And, if they can't do that, then they'll have to, go to like the nearest grocery store to like buy water just to take a shower or brush their teeth and stuff like that, which is insane. I mean, to think about the fact that most people in North America just have clean running water at all times, wherever they are for the most part. The indigenous people are still facing this injustice where, the government's not providing the right kind of support to maintain um, waterways and just the water on the reserves. So, Water First is an organization that, like I said, they're nonprofit. They provide education to young water protectors and try to educate the young Indigenous youth that do want to, do that as their job. And yeah, they try to just provide resources to any indigenous groups in need whenever they're facing water instability. That's something that I really would like to do some events around and do some fundraising for, because yeah, it's just, something that not a lot of people know about. And when I found out about it, it made me really angry, honestly. So I felt like, it was something that I needed to do something about. Um, and yeah, I mean, I hope that we can just see more and more people, become aware of this stuff and try to find ways to just contribute to it, because I think it's all of our responsibility to help the indigenous groups, get the support they need and deserve. For real. Thank you. Yeah, seriously, like, and that's that, like that saying, it's like, just because maybe some people don't need much doesn't mean that they deserve the bare minimum or less than that, you know what I mean? And this is the whole problem with the government today at large, especially, I mean, I would say everywhere really, but North America, like, it's really rampant, right? Like, and it's been like that for a long time, but we're just more and more people are starting to really like let it sink in of like the extent that they will go to retain a certain level of control of the finances at large, right? So, um, it goes deep for sure. It's very, but it's important for us to like be able to sit with that. And maybe not everybody is always ready to do that, but I just hope that people can remove themselves enough from the situation to be educated on it and figure out how they can positively contribute to bettering the situation rather than, become apathetic or, you know, feel confused as to what they can do. It's like we don't have time for that. Sorry. But just like, you know.
No, no, this is great. Like, there's a saying, apathy leads to bondage, So if you're not an active agent, part of your environment and things around you, yeah. Water is really complex too. I like talking about water
Mhm.
because most of the indigenous populations in the US were forced west where water is scarce. And water rights, I mean, there's so many people and corporations buying up water rights in the US that shouldn't be. And then they're doing it in other countries too. I did a Fulbright grant in Eastern Europe in Sarajevo, and Coca-Cola is over there operating as Olympia Water, and they're paying for like one access point to water, but doubling up on every individual access point they're granted. And it's just fucking corrupt.
Mm, gross.
While they're taking this beautiful, fresh, really wonderful water from Bosnia in this case, right? And then fucking bottling it and selling it to them. Yeah, the mortars. There's a lot of history, yeah. Survival. It's like survival strategies. So I'm a cultural anthropologist with a focus on like identity construction. So like this is where I'm at, like this consciousness and creation with Keelantic. I love that. Um, so like I grew up on the border, so there's like a lot of intersections when it comes to gender, religion, language, cultural and ritual practice. And so when I was applying for countries, I came across Bosnia Herzegovina. They have two very distinct like boundary limitations within the country, right? And then one majority is Muslim, but there's also like Orthodox Christians and Jews, and it's like a variety of religions, but it's usually like conservative, conventional practice. And then you have like the Republic of Srpska, and they're not Muslim majority. And then you have that history of conflict too, and then also attempted mass genocide on the Muslim people during that time. Yeah, it's really intense. I mean, they murdered the Archduke there, and that's kind of like what jumps off World War One. Is it one or two? I can't remember. It's so much, and you can't walk anywhere there without running into like they call them the roses of Sarajevo, and they're where the mortars hit, and they painted them red all throughout the city. Oh yes, yeah. It was about that strip, the only strip that they could really like escape the city from because it's surrounded by mountains, Serbia and Croatia surrounded, and it's like Sarajevo is like in this like valley, and the Serbians were just hitting them with mortars constantly every day, and they could only get out through this one line, and they would just shoot them. It didn't matter who it was, children, women, didn't matter. They would just shoot them. Yeah. They haven't cleared those mortars. Like we had to do a debrief at the embassy when we arrived in country, and we were told like do not go hiking. Like it looks beautiful, but like there are mortars in the mountains still. Do not go anywhere that you don't see other people in masses present at.
Oh, man. Oh, no, it's just interesting stuff. Yeah, I was just saying, wow,
All the
um,
cover-ups, they know like throughout history, the way that they've tried to cover up all these horrendous fucking actions, they know they're wrong.
oh, yeah, of course. That's why they tried to cover it up, get rid of all the information, right? Burn the books, get rid of the artifacts, and scatter the information and the people, and et cetera, right? But I mean, I find it's interesting time that we're in now with technology and how interconnected everything has become. because of also the technology, which I think, obviously it's a very controversial thing. People that are, spiritualists and stuff have different viewpoints on technology and, whether it's more good or bad. But I think personally, I just think that it's what you do with it, like anything. I mean, I don't think that most things, except for maybe some, obviously there's going to be exceptions, are necessarily inherently good or bad. I think it's more what you do, right? Like your action or reaction or whatever it is. Um, but yeah, I mean, we've seen this kind of story throughout history time and time again, especially with civilizations, indigenous civilizations or groups that um, may have posed as a threat to what was trying to be established by, the powers that be or whatever you want to call it.
I had raised it by mistake. I was trying to hit the 100 when Rack said it's what you make it, the technology. And listen, that's the truth because you see what they, who they are doing with it, and then you see how we're gathering and what we're doing with it. So, the light is here, the darkness as well, but I don't get too worried or caught up in those conversations because intent is everything. Um, and that's what's happening now, intent. So the intent towards the people, the women and children, is shifting. And trust me, in the feminine divine world, which is everything now, um, there is change. There is change coming, and I like what you said in the fact that like now more than ever, because we do have technology aligning with the celestial and the awakening, and furthermore the ascension. So I mean, listen, we good, we good.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, I was gonna just go back to the document a little bit, but before we did that, I would say, so so we went through the heritage page, and then between that and the next um page that has a couple of paragraphs, there's one, two, three, four, five, six diagrams of DNA matrices, as well as a table that's the ancient stellar races involved with humanity. It splits it up between the Elohi and the Seraphi lines. And it kind of goes into more detail. I was thinking maybe we should just post those pages for people to sort of visually look at because I think it's easier um, than just trying to explain like all the small parts because it's a lot of like little moving parts to it. Um, but then I was thinking we could go to the incarnational or incarnational heritage, which is the indigo incarnation, which differs from the usual contemporary incarnational process, giving indigos a different genetic signature. But I drafted a little summary of some of like one of the first mentioned races in that subject because um there's a little bit of like the terminology that's used. I don't want people to get confused about it because it was used in history in a different way than what it's intended in this document. So in the MCEO teachings, what we're talking about right now, the term Aryan is not used in the same way that it was appropriated in the 20th century political ideologies like Nazism. So I just wanted to make that clear before we start talking about that, just in case, anyone gets confused listening back since this is recorded. Um, and just in general. So just to go into that a little bit, so a genetic lineage within Earth's evolutionary timeline, according to Deanne, who's the author of many of the books and this one that we're studying here in Keylontic Science. The Aryan race was the fourth root race in a larger planetary seeding plan called the Emerald Covenant. So this plan was designed to rehabilitate the human genome after multiple genetic fall events caused by off-planet conflicts. So the Aryan root race is not to be confused with the Nazi racial ideology. It emerged roughly 75,000 years ago. It was an evolutionary experiment to integrate advanced 12-strand DNA templates into Earth's human race. And these beings had more activated DNA codes, preparing Earth humans to re-enter interdimensional communication and ascension cycles, kind of what we were talking about before. Um, and so the root race timeline goes basically, there's the Polarian, which was 500 million years ago, and the purpose was etheric blueprinting of Earth. Then there was the Hyperborean, which was 200 million years ago, and that would be pre-physical evolution. Then it would be Lemurian, which was 26 million years ago, which was the first full physical humanoids. And then there's the Aryan, 75,000 years ago, DNA recovery and spiritual realignment was the purpose of this group. And then there was the Atlantean, 50,000 to 10,000 years ago, advanced tech and the downfall of Atlantis. And then there's the present day humans, which is obviously mixed lineage, DNA distortions, and awakening potential. So the Aryan root race and the Emerald Order, um, well, the Aryan root race was intended to be part of the Emerald Covenant, a peaceful, multidimensional agreement to help Earth evolve and prevent domination by the fallen angelic races. However, things got complicated, and some Aryan sublineages were infiltrated by fallen angelic groups. So these distortions led to genetic manipulation wars and the fall of Atlantis. As a result, the Emerald Order and the Azurite Council began emergency missions to repair the planetary grid and human DNA templates, which includes working with the Indigo Children and other starseed groups. So, a summary of this in simple terms is, in this context, Aryan equals a stage in human evolution, not a racial supremacy idea, just to be very clear. The Aryan race was an advanced race seeded by guardian races, much like the Emerald Order, to rehabilitate the human genome. They were later targeted by the fallen groups, which caused a distortion of the legacy, some which trickled into modern day misuse of the term, as we know. Um, so yeah. So then if somebody else wants to read into the next part of the heritage, you can, or I can continue, but we could talk about that if anyone wants to say anything. Well, of course they are. I mean, they pay it with their actions every day and what they choose to assign themselves to and the energy that they're associating with ultimately. I mean, people like Hitler, I highly doubt that he was not influenced by otherworldly spirits. I mean, look at all the damage that he did. He was probably extremely confused, and we know that God does not bring confusion. That's the work of the devil. So he knew what he was doing. Well, that's the whole thing about like Satanism and Luciferian teachings and, values and practices. I mean, the whole thing is like people have to agree to it, right? So, of course, they infuse all of these things into our media and our entertainment and things to sort of backhandedly get us to agree to these things in our subconscious because we're consuming it, right? Um, and if we don't have the awareness to really understand like where certain things are coming from. It's really just, being able to like tap into the energy of like where this is all coming from, especially when it comes to like, maybe more negative sort of media programming. It's really easy to trick people in that way. And I think it's like a form of energy siphoning, actually. Especially through technology, Hollywood, media, like all this stuff. It's very sort of advanced manipulation, really, at the end of the day. Interesting. I'll have to watch that.
I love that show.
I haven't actually seen it. It does look interesting though. I'm very like weird and picky about TV and stuff. I do watch certain things though. We started watching this show called The Magicians, and that's a good one. It's based off of a book series that I read actually when I was a teenager. And then I saw Tubi has it on there for free, and there's like a whole bunch of seasons. So I started watching it, and it was really cool at first, but then honestly, I mean, I appreciate the fact that they aren't sugarcoating a lot of things when it comes to like people doing like conjuring work and summoning and stuff like that. Once they get into that part of the series, it gets very dark. And I was not really expecting it to get like that so much because I don't remember the books being like that dark. But at the same time, when you read a book and you're not seeing it visually, you're imagining it differently in your head. So of course it's gonna seem different when you're watching it, right? And when I watched it, it was just like which is kind of like shocking some of the things that were happening that and it's very gory actually. There's a lot of blood and stuff that happens. So I stopped watching it. Um, but yeah, maybe I'll check out American Gods because I do
Watch it
like
again with you.
that sort of stuff. And yeah, my boyfriend likes the show, so he's vouching for it here. Um, yeah. Plus with Fillory, we kept noticing how when it would change to the land of Fillory, like in the books and everything, when they would, they actually ended up going there and then they became kings and queens there and everything. I feel like they didn't really do a good job.
It felt like a soap opera rather
Yeah, it
than
was
like a
like the
serious
production
show.
was lower and it was very dramatic. Yeah, very just like about relationships and stuff in there, but not in a very interesting way. Like there wasn't a lot of magic in Fillory, I found, which was weird to me. I was like, isn't this supposed to be like the land of magic? Like you guys could have made this so much cooler. You know what I mean? But yeah. Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. That's See, this is what I mean. It's like, where's all the? Because in the real world, when they have scenes back in, not in Fillory, it seems like they had good production value of like the magic that was involved in those scenes. But then in the scenes in Fillory, it was just seemed like it was kind of just thrown together or more last minute, or I don't know what they did. They just cheaped out on it or something. I don't know. Oh, the Beast. Hmm. I know, cause yeah, there's so many seasons, I think how many, like, maybe 8 or 9 or something like that? There was quite a few, so I was just disappointed to see that, it fell off so much, for me at least, so quickly as somebody who read the books, because I was just looking forward to that, but, at least he got, 1st season wasn't bad. I think towards the end of the 2nd season, it started to get a little, ridiculous for me personally, but yeah, I mean, I feel like that happens often when you read a book though of something first and then you watch either like the movie or the series after. It's really 50-50 um to if they do it justice or not. You know what I mean? So, yeah, definitely. Definitely. Okay, well, moving on. Sorry for this discussion. Side reel. Yeah. Oh, cool. Oh, amazing. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, that's great. If anybody does want to take a look at the diagrams, I think it's just Valerie in here that might not have the actual PDF that we're talking about. It's the Architects of Light indigo workshop that we're kind of going through right now in the Keylontic Science studies. If you do want the PDF, just let me know. I can DM it to you. But yeah, I think I don't know if you want to. I can read into the page 26 of the incarnational heritage, and then maybe we can call it after we discuss that. Um,
Few minutes.
yeah. Okay. So, oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry. Yeah, yeah, it just took me a minute. Um, okay, so it says on this page that so the indigo incarnation differs from the usual contemporary incarnational process, giving indigos a different genetic signature. So we are in the fifth Aryan root race cycle with third to fourth strand DNA activation levels as the dominant genetic orientation. So most spirits incarnating in our present time are those focused in the fourth dimensional astral plane. Most incoming spirits are those of people who more recently left incarnation on Earth, who have not yet accreted the higher dimensional aspects of their consciousness into their morphogenetic field. So, indigos incarnate from higher dimensions and they represent embodiments of spirits who once inhabited the elder races, which we talked about a couple episodes ago, of ancient times, and those who usually inhabit the higher dimensional reality fields that represent the quote unquote future time in relation to our time cycle vibration. And then in brackets it says time is simultaneous. True time represents cycles of repeating vibrational deceleration and acceleration, expansion and contraction of the scalar fields, which we talked about scalar fields also in one of the prior episodes. Um, and into which consciousness focuses to experience linear continuum progression. So, one more time, time is simultaneous. True time represents cycles of repeating vibrational deceleration or acceleration, expansion or contraction of scalar fields into which consciousness focuses to experience linear continuum progression. Okay. So to incarnate, Orifim spirits locate parents who possess higher concentrations of the diamond sun DNA matrix, which you can see an image of above. Um, Once potential parents are found, agreements are made with the higher dimensional portions of the parents' identities or soul agreements. All spirits arrive in incarnation through such prearranged soul agreements, but indigo birthing contracts are orchestrated from the avatar and rishi levels of identity, which is part of the hue 4 and hue 5 bands, rather than from the usual soul level hue 2. These special agreements are called Palladorian birthing contracts. In Palladorian, oh, In Palladorian contracts, the higher dimensional aspects of the parent's identity agree to allow their incarnate genetic code to be accelerated and enhanced to accommodate an indigo birth. The parent's DNA activation level must be enhanced to create a quote unquote fetal body with a high enough fire letter slash scalar wave content. uh, Genetic code to house a higher frequency indigo consciousness. Once an Orifim spirit has found the needed parental genetic code and conception occurs, the Orifim spirit begins to step down the frequencies of its consciousness into the vibrational range of the fetal pattern. Upon fetal integration, the Orphan spirit activates the fifth and sixth DNA strands, a genetic attribute of the future race, Melchizedek and Uniceti cloisters. Unlike most contemporary humans, indigos are born with fifth to sixth DNA strand activation, which allows them to retain a more open connection between their Earth identity and their soul matrix. Sorry, I think I rugged. Can you repeat that? No, definitely. Yeah, I mean there's a lot of info just in this one document, which I find definitely really helpful. It's been really enlightening to go through a lot of this stuff too, because yeah, a lot of it, not just for myself, but yeah, there's lots of people that I know that have had a lot of experiences that they look for answers for, and others that maybe they don't look for answers, but I think everything comes to people when they're ready in a way.
Hey everybody. Yes, I am doing well and I had a very busy weekend. Um and I just wanted to come up here to thank everybody for being here. Thank you Rax, thank you Jonathan. Um and anyone else who's come up to speak. Callie, how you doing girl? Uh but I just wanted to come up here when she was just reading. I freaked out a bit because I got deja vu, and it's been a little while since that's happened. And then I just thought about how last time, Jonathan, you had gotten an activation. I didn't tell you guys, but when Jonathan had gotten that activation the last time we came and spoke about Keylontic science, I had an activation too, but it was a little different and it hit me a little differently than it hit him. It was kind of like this uh, euphoric feeling that is not really too many ways to describe it, but yeah. That's what I experienced the last time. When he said that he experienced what he experienced, I had experienced what I experienced at the same exact time. So that was really interesting. The fact that he had talked about it again today, I was like, man, should I just say it? No, 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 no. So yeah. Anyway, yeah. So this topic and just chelantic science, it's doing something in my spirit, just us talking about it and just me listening to it and hearing about it. It's actually doing something in me that I can't really explain or describe in much detail. So it's really dope. So thank you guys.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us too, though. I appreciate you being open like that. And yeah, I hope that um, we can positively open up as many people as possible with sharing this information. I will say too that I'm working on structuring sort of like Keylontic oracle readings for people, which like I will be turning into like a paid service. But I think for everybody that's here in these spaces before we finish this manual, like I'll be happy to do some readings for you guys if you'd like as well, just because you're here. And yeah, so if you want that, then if you're comfortable to send me your birth date information, it's easier for me to get more accurate information and like specifics. So if that's something that you guys are interested in, just let me know. Ancestral too. That information is so powerful. But I just wanted to say too that like if you are resonating with this information and you're finding that you're feeling very connected to it and have had relevant or relative experiences, you or anyone that I think that it's also important that like we are at this time where we do need to really come together. And um I would like to try to offer those tools, I guess, for people to just be able to understand what it is that they are also capable of doing in the energetic realms. I mean, not that, you know, anyone doesn't know, but I think it's nice to have, as much information as possible from all aspects of what kinds of things that your soul might just naturally have abilities for that you might not have always put together or thought of, or just different things like that. So that's really just like my intention for those readings is to help you connect on a deeper level with the abilities that you also do have as well.
Yeah, what's good, Brody? Rax, family. How we doing today, family? You know what I'm saying? I had to come pull up. It's been a little minute since I've been able to actually come and join because I've been working. But I've been listening this whole episode, and it's just been a vibe, man. Y'all always bringing the knowledge. You know what I'm saying? So whenever I get a chance to pull up, I love being able to receive said knowledge because I have a thirst for the knowledge. So. Uh, I'm just glad y'all keep on holding this space, and I'm glad it's finally official because I was, you know, it, you know, I was waiting for Rex to get the co-host, because that just seemed like a match made in heaven from like episode like two. So like prior to episode two, and this even being a thing. So I'm glad that that's a thing now. Don't mind me. I'm just cleaning out the old bowl for my midday Coke. Oh, no, I ain't got to do that, baby. Those are always right. Trust and believe. If anything gonna be right, that's gonna be right. But nah, man, it's peace and blessings though. Now I had a nice little meditation session last night, so this is very, very beneficial. So I'm open and receiving all of this information that's being put out. Yeah, we was talking about that, like how it's how they it's not just the medication, but it's also the indoctrination into their system, right? The system, right? It's you know it's crazy, right? The way that it's all we can get into it. How they break it down to where they train you to be a worker, right? Like, all right, go sit in this school for 8 hours and learn what we tell you to learn, not actual like real knowledge or anything. Just learn what we tell you to learn. Learn this dictation. Like, here's the didactic. Take it, remember it, and that's it. Like, but then it's like, oh, also, you know what I'm saying? We want you to fit inside this box. And if you don't, here's some drugs to make you fit inside this box because you're too creative. You got too much energy. And then it's like, now they're labeling you with all these things, but it's really just your natural state of being. And they're, you're fighting against, this system that they're trying to put you in. And that this is not what you're supposed to be doing or what you're supposed to be in, but because you don't fit what they're trying to make you do, they're going to give you pills. You know what I'm saying? Here's some Ritalin, here's some of this, here's some of that, here's some of this, here's some of that. Sit down, shut up, be quiet, sit here in this corner, right? To rob you of not just your individuality, your creativity, your spirituality, just you as a person, right? You need to fit into the cog, right? You are a piece of the machine that is what the overall thing is, right? You're just a cog in the machine, right? And if you don't fit, they will force you to fit.
Until we become the ghost in the shell.
Oh, thank you, Rex. Thank you, Rex. Yes, it could have. I mean, we'll take what we can get. But you got Netflix too. You got the Netflix show too, Altered Carbon. Similar premise.
Ooh, love that show. Very good.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It was really good. Skynet. Yeah, you gotta have a
It's
line. You gotta
called
have a line
boundaries.
somewhere.
It's
Yeah,
called boundaries, people. Okay. We
right.
gotta, if we don't have good boundaries with humans that we have in our lives, how are we gonna have good boundaries with technology, especially when it's being forced literally down our throats? So, we gotta practice strong boundaries, right? Especially as
Boundaries.
people that are, connecting to the internet of, well, the universe and not just
I like
computers.
that. The the network of the universe. Yeah, bro.
You'll have to be able to hire Savan Bomar or some of his team to code things properly. Probably he's the one that wrote that book, The Code to the Matrix, right?
Oh,
No, no, not the Matrix, the Code to the Matrix. So it's like yeah, but it breaks a lot of it down. So it's plays on those themes and everything, but it sort of is going into like deeper meanings and relating it to spirituality and the evolution of human consciousness and all kinds of things. So it's very relevant to actually Kelantic science and a lot of the stuff that we're talking about because he actually has developed, well, okay, so I've been a little bit of backstory. I've been following Savan Bomar's teachings from when I was like 15 years old. I discovered like his stuff with some friends of mine. And we've all been sort of like, this is a big part of he was a big part of a catalyst into learning about a lot of this esoteric knowledge because he's a massive teacher. Like his teachings run really deep. It's been 15 years that I know that he's been consistently doing this stuff. He has a channel on YouTube. He has a website called Free Energy, actually. And there's a lot of holistic tools and things that he's developed for um, like helping the body. All kinds of things from like water alkalizers to water hydrogen machines to courses and information about energy work and colloidal silvers and golds, different types of cleansing protocols and detox protocols for the body, kits, all this kind of stuff. So basically, everything that you might need to recalibrate, detox, and balance your body. He has like courses he's developed and all kinds of stuff, but there's plenty of free information that has gathered up over time just on his YouTube channel and on the website. That's a massive, massive resource for anybody that's in this realm of things. So I highly, highly recommend exploring his teachings and stuff because, yeah, he developed also an AI called Sybil. And Sybil AI is trained on all esoteric knowledge that he's found over his career. So it's actually remarkable. It's kind of expensive. I think it's around $40 or $50 a month. So I haven't subscribed to it, but I did do the trial. There's like a 7-day free trial. Um, you can kind of take a look at it because there's basically different builds that have been also tailored to specific areas of esoteric and occult knowledge. So, whether you're looking for information on health related things, finances, relationships, like all these different sort of areas of life, he's sort of taken all the occult and esoteric knowledge that he's found over time and free access stuff that's out on the web available to everybody, and then trained these models on everything that's he's found essentially in these certain areas. So it's an amazing tool. That community, or sorry, not free energy, secret energy community is fantastic. Savan Bomar is a remarkable individual, and he lives in Costa Rica now, and he occasionally will host seminars or workshops and things. He is a very advanced teacher, so he's hard to access. But he's like physically at least, but he is like in terms of money, he's an expensive person to work with, as you can imagine. But there is, like I said, a lot of free information that he's posted online over the years. So I can post a link to that as well in the comments. Yeah, of course. No, and honestly,
Let me
no, of
get that
course.
free
There's
Nina.
honestly so much info too, just on the website and the YouTube channel, that you could probably watch that content for like a couple years and not even run out of anything. Because those videos go for like 40 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. He's gone some lectures and stuff. He'll be talking for like 3 to 4 hours. Like the guy is a fucking machine. Like, you know what I mean? It's crazy. It's really cool.
Miller.
Yeah, I didn't want to kind of go off track of what Rax was saying. That's why I put it back down. But to go back to what were we talking about? Oh yeah, altered carbon. I just kind of wanted to share a theory. Basically, I have heard many different many different people talking about this theory that basically happens, the consciousness swap in different bodies. It actually happens to those who have come here and decided to, for whatever reason, a lot of times, like with entertainers, they come here and then they say, hey, I want to be famous, and I'll do whatever it takes, and then they are pretty much stuck here, and they end up going from body to body, um their consciousness at least, because they hold that star power that keeps the engine going here on earth. So it is possible. I've heard different celebrities talk about it, like, you know Orlando Brown says a lot of stuff that is not so credible, but he has mentioned it, and I've also heard it from other people as well. So that leads me to believe that there is some level of truth there. So, I've heard about pretty much Taylor Swift, her consciousness actually being of someone long time ago. Um, and now she is, who she is now. And it is possible that she could have been herself at first. And then when she made that move to I don't know, sell your soul. I don't know if everybody believes that, but hey, it is what it is. And that could have transformed her consciousness out of her body and then transformed someone else's consciousness into her body. I don't know exactly how it works, but this is the theory. And if you want to, dive into it a little more after, that's up to you. But I think that it is a real thing where we are actually able to take our consciousness, or not actually do it ourselves. I don't know how it's done, but there is a theory that that happens, and that is happening within the entertainment industry, and that's been happening for a really long time. We just didn't know about it, and now that the truth is coming out, more and more answers are coming out too. So
Well,
so
it's more about soul contracts also, I would say, and this is like, I mean, it's not about judgment. I think it's about awareness, like whether or not they're a celebrity who quote unquote sold their soul. Many of them are operating in an arena where like their spiritual sovereignty is challenged on a daily basis. So, even though we might look at these celebrities as like very powerful and, because they have all this money, physical fame, and physical attributes, it's like, are they really free? I mean, maybe that's a better question that we should be asking, because what does that look like then for Taylor Swift to wake up and live her day out? I mean, look at most of her music. Is it not about breakups and heartbreak? I mean, it just really makes you, at least for me, it makes me really question whether or not that celebrity is actually free, because I don't really personally think of it that way, to be completely honest with you. I think fame sounds like a prison, actually. I personally wouldn't, I don't want that ever. I like, even as an artist and musician myself, I would like to be able to make enough money to make the creative projects that I would like without having to take out of my pocket, and have a genuine community of people that connect with my art. But I I don't, I reject the notion of fame, to be honest. It's not really something that appeals to me. And honestly, when I speak to a lot of other artists that I also respect and, love their work, like, um, most of them don't even want that. So I think it's an interesting program for us to view, and then try to ask ourselves, like, what really is that? What is really that's happening with those people? Because, um, even if it was a soul contract, which I think it must be before they incarnate at some point, that they're going to become this individual. It's not necessarily always a good thing, you know. So, just oh yeah, but no, but you have to give permission though. That's one of the rules of all of that sort of stuff. So
Yep.
yeah, yeah. If you sign the contract pre-life, yeah, for sure. Well, and imagine that, like, imagine that though, that somebody, you agree to sign over a likeness or portion of, well, I guess your soul, realistically, like when that's, because that that is a soul contract. I mean, that's a version of it, I guess, in this plane, but it's like, I don't know, it just seems very unappealing to me. But I guess, I'm educated, so a lot of people don't, willful ignorance is a real sort of issue at large. You lose things too. Oh yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yep. Yep. And to be totally transparent also with all of this, I actually got this database of information about the Kelantic science from a close friend of mine that I had from high school, who is a sound healer now in Hawaii, who he had been gone already for a couple of years. traveling and stuff when he had sent me this information, but it got sent to me after a scenario that had happened where basically I had a run-in situation with some masons, and some stuff had happened um that was not safe. And so when I told my friend about it, Jack, the one who sent me this information, he basically guided me through a meditation that was using some of the protective codes in the code section of the Dropbox that we have here, that is used in meditation for grid work and energy clearing and protection and stuff like that. And then he basically gave me all the information then after that whole scenario had happened. Um, so yeah, it's very real. It's very, I mean, a lot of people may not have any exposure to these kinds of situations in their lifetime, and I hope that they don't, because it's not always a great thing. I mean, a lot of the time it's not. And yeah, I think that's why it's also just really important that we do share the information and, you know, make people aware that there are ways to protect yourself. So. You should ask him where the entrance to the tunnels is in there. Oh, I'm too curious for my own good. No, yeah. Well, it's because, you gotta be curious though. You gotta ask questions.
Oh, I was gonna agree with Rax on the whole fame and stuff like that. I've been singing since I was a little girl, like in school, in church, things like that. And I had a he was kind of like a mentor, kind of cousin or whatever at the church, and he saw how well I was doing with singing, and he was like, "Hey, I want to tell," and this is probably when I was about 11, 12, 13 years old. He was like, "I want to tell you about what's going on in the music industry." And he told me all of this, and I had plans. I'm telling you, from a very young age, I knew that I wanted to do music professionally. And all this time, I've been like scared to do it because I thought that there was only one way to do it. So, um, he told me all about the Illuminati and things like that. He went into depth and all of that, and I've been studying it um, at the time and moving forward, just seeing all the signs and symbols and stuff like that, knowing what artists to really support and what artists I was gonna kind of like kind of stay away from or stay away from their music for the most part. And he really helped me at a young age. So when things came up like American Idol and different opportunities, I knew I was like, no, I'm not doing that. That doesn't feel right for me. It's just something about it that is really not just sketchy, but in my spirit, I could feel like that's not it. And also, what happened to the last person that was on there that you never see them again, and things like that. And, nowadays, you don't necessarily have to uh, be a part of a record label or um, things like that to be a successful music artist. And that's just for music. I'm not sure about acting and things like that, but I do know that, some people, like, let's say, for example, Rihanna, she had said uh, in an interview, they'd asked her, okay, well, what was it like to be in a room with Jay-Z, and you got this contract you're about to sign, like what happened? And she's basically like it was me and Jay-Z in a hotel on like the 20th floor, and there was a balcony, and he said it's either sign the contract or go over the balcony. And that was how it happened for her. And she didn't know what she was signing up for. And like a lot of music artists out there who had no idea and who were so young, and they'd never heard anything about Illuminati, never seen through the signs and the examples. Like, so, I mean, it can happen to anyone who has star power. I mean, if you let that star power show and you set up an interview with one of the biggest in the industry, you never know what could happen. So that's why it is so important to be smart and also to protect your energy, protect your spirit, and things like that too. But yeah, I mean, I knew this information for a long time, and I'm sure Rax, you said you knew this around the same age. So it's like, yeah, we knew better, and now we're looking for our community. We pretty much know who our community is, and we're looking toward doing music for that community and building up whatever financial abundance or whatever comes with that. But I mean, the only reason why I would personally want fame is just to get God's message out there to as many people as possible. That's the only reason why. And, not to be praised myself, but to tell people praise God, because this is how it all happened for me, you know? But not everybody has that same intention. I feel
I
like
just want
if
the
it
money. I don't want the fame. Like, just give me $1 billion, but don't tell anyone that I have it. You know what I mean?
I feel like though the the people who actually find fame were always meant to have it. and they were always spiritually built to endure that in some way. You know, like we talk about soul contracts. That was pretty much in their soul contract. So things
Yeah.
in their childhood would have happened to them to prepare them for that future outcome, you
Well,
know?
yeah, when it's ordained, for sure. Yeah. That's a different thing than, like the Taylor Swifts or the people that are sort of selling their souls or whatever, right? So, different situations. I mean, you look at people like Bob Marley, right? Like that's a completely different um energetic signature of an individual. That's, so yeah, you're right. There's like responsible ways to go about things and irresponsible, but it's just rare that you do see one that is really seems like they're trying to raise the consciousness rather than lower it, right? I think I get that feeling, but only really from like when somebody says that about my music, like um which has happened a handful of times or whatever, from like the first song that I put out, which is a very encouraging message in it. But it's uh it's hard not to feel like an imposter when you're preaching messages of hope and you're struggling yourself in your daily life as a small independent musician, right? It's like obviously my heart is in the right place, but it's just a momentum thing. I think it's, we got to also put ourselves first and know how much we can sort of offer in that way, or how we can go about that without draining our own energy ultimately, right? The burnout thing, like you were talking about before. Yeah, so but I think, it gets easier with time. Like it's definitely like I've learned over time ways to recharge better, and when to, pull my energy back, or when to push forward and things like that, which is a big thing. I mean, that balance is so key. It's taken me 4 years to just get to a point of being able to actually have the connections in terms of the people that I'm working with, that are aligned and on the same pages with like the budget, the intention, and the quality of work that I'm trying to provide through my music consistently. And I've worked with so many people over the years and had to, stop working with a lot of people because of different things that come to light or situations that would arise and happen. And I'm just thankful now, I guess, to be in a place where I finally have what feels like a pretty solid team that's formed around my music. Um, but I mean, I've been singing since I was like a kid. So I just turned 30 and I'm only going to be finishing my first like full EP ideally by the end of this year. Um, so yeah, it's not for the faint of heart, you know. Oh, believe me, I know.
Um, I'm kind of in that position right now, because y'all know I was doing Thursday faithfully every single Thursday for years on Spaces, and at some point, I was getting a lot of backlash from people. Basically, some people were saying that I was promoting toxic positivity, and I wasn't, because I was speaking about negative events and, my own personal experience that had been negative, but I always found the lighter side, the brighter side of it. And also, like you said, Rex, I mean, we go through things in our daily lives, and, you could be a positive source for people. At the same time, you could be struggling yourself. So at some point, you have to like dial it back, maybe take a break, release. And there was also a couple people who said that I only wanted to be in the light, and I didn't want to explore the darkness that exists in each and every one of us. And I am not saying that that's not true, because it was kind of true. But at at the same time, life experiences happened during the time where I was taking a break, and I decided to step away. And that's when I experienced my most extreme darkness I've ever experienced in my life. And after I got out of that darkness, ever since I got out of that darkness, I have been being tapped by universe. Okay, start now. It's almost time. It's almost time to start. All right, now is the time. Now you got to get started. Now do this first. Get your things in order. Gain peace in this area. Practice your discipline in this area. Do this, do that. And then I'm like, okay, okay, okay. I got this. I got that. I got my brand work together. I got the rebranding stuff together. Okay, I got this now. I got the YouTube. I got, okay. So now that all the pieces are coming together, it's like, okay, now just start. And that's where I am having, I think, the most resistance, because it's like, well, I've been away from it for a while now. Are people still going to be there for me the way that they were before? Because, like you said, Jonathan, when people come to you and they're like, something you said awoke something in me, I really needed to hear that. Or, now my life has changed in some sort of way. When I was able to do that for people, it made me feel so good. At the same time, it did feel like a lot of pressure, where I was like, oh shit, like people are actually waking up from what I'm saying. So now I have to, be more careful about what I'm saying. And it's like, no, and I know that, but in the moment, it it seems like a lot of pressure. So now I'm being encouraged by the universe in so many different ways, so many signs, synchronicities, animals, you name it, basically telling me to just start. And it's just been me holding myself back for these, at least for these last couple weeks. I've been getting all the signs like just start, just start. And I've been holding myself back like, no, I'm not ready yet. I got to do this first. No, this isn't done yet. Let me do that. And it's like, you're just wasting time, because now is the time. So if it feels good to say that, because I haven't said it.
No, it's very resonant too. Like I've been dealing with that a lot myself with getting back into music and recommitting myself to it, because I had been in a replanning stage for so long of, I had to leave the last studio that I was at, find a new engineer. That took a long time just because a lot of the people that I know physically in Toronto in the music industry here are more in the hip hop realm, which is not really good for like female vocals, especially somebody like mine where like they're dynamic and not really, they don't fit into necessarily an easy category of genre. I'm kind of experimental with my music a lot, and they start as poems rather than production, so it's a little bit different for people. And so it's been really challenging to find a consistent engineer that I can feel comfortable, paying 150 to $200 a month to do a song with me consistently at a certain level of quality that I can, at the end of it, feel comfortable to pitch to sync, or, to go and perform live, because that's really, what the end goal is, to be able to, tour and have all of this music hopefully successfully pitched to some sync placements and stuff like that. So, there's a certain level of quality obviously that needs to be in place. And I can be a bit of a perfectionist. Obviously, yes, I am a Capricorn sun and rising. So, and a Virgo moon, which is I'm a grand earth trine and a Virgo moon. That's like the hermit card, is also very organized, meticulous. Like I do find that a lot, and I do have to catch myself often, because, it's like songs and poems that I've written since I was 15, 16 years old that I'm only now finishing, because that's the level of like, not only perfectionism, but also fear for a long time that I had of just people seeing me. Because yeah, a lot of my music is, you know, things that have been inside of me for a very long time. So it can feel scary to reveal that, all of a sudden to people. And obviously I want to make sure that I'm being, I'm putting it forth in the best way possible. So um, yeah, but I think like you're saying about just starting, right? You do get those nudges, and certain things I think do line up when the time is right. Because I just recently, like a week ago, came to an agreement with a vocal engineer that I've been trying to get an agreement with for almost 2 years. Because she works with it's another female engineer she lives in California now, but she was living in Virginia for a while working with Finestro, who's like a Grammy nominated, studio engineer, producer, very high quality work and stuff that he does. Works with a lot of big brands and things like that. So she was working out of that studio for a while, and then she relocated to California, so she has more time now because she's not at the physical studio she was anymore. So I was able to, have a conversation with her to come to an agreement of price of what I could afford to work with her for like the mixing and mastering for, my whole EP basically that I'm about to start recording. But then at the same time, I also had another studio like physically here in Toronto reach out to me on Instagram and like ask if I wanted to come try a session, stuff like that. So I'm gonna just start that at the end of this month, and I'll probably, I'll go check out the studio, do a song there, and then next month I will work with a Metaphor is her name. She's actually the artist that introduced me to Web3 a couple of years ago. Um, and she's amazing. She's a really talented visual and audio artist and engineer and producer, and yeah, start working with her to finish out some songs at the end of next month. So we'll see how this all comes together finally. But I think a good one of the mindset tricks I've been using lately to try to reprogram my thoughts and, kind of keep my thoughts in check, as you might say, is that like you're like none of us are the judge or the victim. So I think these narratives of being, judging others and ourselves, as well as, being a victim of others or situations or ourselves. I mean, it's a reminder that we are not in control. God is, I mean, great spirit, the universe, whatever you want to call it. Um, and yeah, I think that that's been really helpful for me because it's one of those it's a kind of insidious sort of programming that's very subconscious that exists within our daily lives very often. I mean, even just simple things as like gossip, drama reality TV shows, or just complaining about things. Like these kinds of energies are it's like a subconscious programming, I think, that we get fed from when we're very young. Um, and it's very, very common. And the more that I try to take note of that in my head, it's like I actually have grown a lot, like as an individual, just from that one thing of noticing when my thoughts go to judge and noticing when my thoughts go to become a victim or victimize myself. um, I think yeah, it's been really powerful and transformative to be able to catch those trains of thought and correct them, essentially. um, yeah, so
No, I don't want to interrupt because before I was like, just trying to like go in between you guys. Anyway, I was just going to tell Rax that I am also working on an album right now, and this is going to be my first album ever, and I was going to come out with an EP first and then an album, but then I'm like, let me just get it out the way. Let me just come out with a full album of 15 songs and then do a re-release at some point and then add 5 more songs. Um and I was working with this engineer out where I am now, but the sound was never I had worked with so many different engineers and producers, and it's never come out the way that I exactly want it. And I'm very particular about my sound as well, and I feel like I'm a perfectionist, and if it's not exactly what I wanted, I'm not really proud enough to go out there and show it to people the way that I would want to. So I'm like, how can I overcome this? I freaking downloaded Studio One onto my computer, and I started learning how to do it myself. And I mean, not gonna lie, I've been doing a lot of other stuff. I'm like I said, I had a lot of stuff. I had this one thing that I wanted to come out and start doing again. Plus, I always had my album in the back of my mind, like, okay, I'm always working on that, always doing that. And then the social media is like a whole nother job on top of that. So, and I'm a Gemini, so I skip from thing to thing. I'm like, okay, let me do this thing now, okay, let me do that, and then I got a whole bunch of pots, and
oh
I'm trying
yeah,
to put my hand in all the pots all at the
my
same time.
mom's
I
a
only got two
Gemini.
hands. Yeah, I only got 2 hands. Oh, I really wonder how that was for you as a Capricorn having a Gemini mom, to be
Oh yeah,
honest, like
and I'm the
that.
youngest of 3 girls, and 2 of my
Oh,
sisters are Geminis too, so
oh,
try that, and
okay.
my other sister's a Leo, so there's 3 Geminis
Ooh.
women, and then a Leo, and then me. I'm the only Capricorn. My father is a Capricorn too.
Okay, so at least your dad kind of, understood you a little
Well,
bit
yeah, he was
more.
estranged, though. He's a DJ. He fucking, he was
Oh,
I only got to see him occasionally, basically, is the best way I could put it.
oh man. But that's like Capricorns. Capricorns is like, I'm gonna get the money, you know? So I might not see you for a while, but I'll get the money.
Uh,
Dang.
Mac Miller. Edgar Allan Poe was a Capricorn too, and Janis Joplin. Or sorry, well, they have the same birthday as me, like the 19th, actually, those 3. I identify with them pretty heavily, those 3 in particular, but I know there are many, many Capricorn, like, artists and entertainment people or whatever. Oh, well, it is our card in the tarot, right? So,
Well,
you know.
well, let me tell you, my Andre 3000 and I have the same birthday, and Kendrick
Oh, that's
Lamar
great.
is a Capricorn too. And oh yeah, and Lisa Left Eye Lopez, we have the same birthday too. So it's
Oh,
like,
okay. That's awesome.
yeah.
You're just aligned. It's alignment, right? You're just aligned. It's alignment, right? I mean, when you have that like spiritual connection, it's easier for you to just be aligned, right? I mean, it's a daily practice, right? Oh, me too. I could think circles around most people, but you probably could too. But yeah, it's ridiculous.
So do you think that you are also thinking of potential realities while manifesting those realities that you have already envisioned? Because sometimes I feel like that too, where I'll get multiple different outcomes will pop up into my head, and then I'll think of the most likely um the thing most likely to occur in this reality, and then that thing will actually happen. But then I'm sitting there like, well, how do I know that I didn't create that reality by believing that that was the most possible outcome? Does that make sense?
Mhm. Mhm. Of course not. That's why we need Kelantic science as opposed to just regular science all the time. Regular science is great too, but it's not like whole, I think, because, it's not expanding into the study of consciousness like all of this is, right? Which is probably important, I think, for humans to try to have a grasp on, you know what I mean? So, um, yeah, that's
Yo, I'm glad I got to join in again. It's been so crazy, and I know I missed so much, but I'm glad I'm joining in again at exactly what Rax just said. We probably should know this information, you know, to help. But man, y'all, I've been in and out. It's been so crazy trying to keep up, and this Monday has not gone as planned, but I had to jump back in here before y'all ended. I'm so glad y'all still in here. Listen, you're blessed. You're blessed. You got a lot of feminine energy going around. You got the animals going around. You and yeah, I heard your conversation and that you know had the experiences of meeting the other versions of yourself, knowingly or unknowingly. And man, yeah, I'm learning more about that even now and just how it's only us and we are the existence pushed out. Um, I'll be having a lot of information to share that I've had through experience, but I got to start formulating it into words. I was speaking on a TikTok yesterday and they was like, okay, this is high level stuff that we're speaking about, Rax. Like this is not like who of course this gets covered up and covered up and covered up and covered up and renamed and misinterpreted and covered up because this is like a lot of
yeah.
information. So
Well, and there's a
this is
lot of people even just in Keylontic science that do have this knowledge that it's uh like a lot of them have kept it, a lot of them haven't shared it and they just say, "Oh, well, people will just find it when they find it," and there a lot of them are not trying to share it. But I think, I try to reserve judgment and just say, "Okay, well, there's going to be some people that are only there to learn something and there's going to be others that are there to teach and share as well too." So just, I just try to do my best to share what I can. Well, I mean, I used to think that myself actually because of Z's work that I mentioned before. Z, she's done that a lot, but she has her YouTube channel where she has a lot of transmissions, meditations, sound meditations, guided meditations, and then just discussions, podcasts, and talks and things like that that she's built up over the past, like, I don't know, 6, 7 years, which I'm going to be starting my own channel soon as well too to do similar thing. However, I used to feel that way towards her with her work because a lot of her oracle healing ceremonies, her workshops and retreats are all paywalls, and even some of the online ones, the online workshops, like she did a 1 day free access recently, but it was a 3 day long thing. So to get all 3 days, you had to pay for it, right? But that being said, she still did open the container for 6 hours for everyone to come and join, right? So I think that unfortunately it's a hard pill to swallow that we still exist in the physical reality and that money is necessary. So I do think it is, that's why I would like to just help people understand what it is that they are meant to be doing within this work so that they can apply it to their own lives and then also generate from their own businesses using these principles and things because we do need to accept the fact that there is money and this is a lot of energy, like these discussions and stuff. I mean, I'm glad that we have these recordings so people can go back and listen to it because yeah, it's a lot of energy to expend through trying to unwrap these things and make them digestible and understandable for somebody that doesn't have a base in knowledge of esoteric and occult understanding. It's a lot. So totally understand where that feeling comes from. I was there myself a couple years ago with it all, but now I'm at a point where I'm accepting and also just adapting and figuring out how I can best generate the physical abundance through the use of these tools in my own life without sort of infringing on anybody else's freedom, but also still providing some seeds of access and thought to it. And of course, anytime somebody approaches me with something specific, I'm always happy and open to help. However, most often that doesn't happen because let's face it, most often people are not really necessarily always applying these things on a daily basis, and that's okay. Everybody, like, we all have our own journeys and we're all in different points and we're all just walking each other home. So oh, like bots. Sounds like a bot. No, you're right. NPCs. Sorry. Well, I shouldn't say that, but
Yeah, it's
true.
important to be adding value, beforehand. And I think that everybody who has monetized, these type of spiritual practices, this esoteric knowledge, the ones that do well and best have been in the flow of it. They've, they found like-minded people with like hearts that really genuinely want, the information. And maybe they found their readings on their pages, and each time they've connected, it's been something that they needed to hear at that right time. And then after that, you know, if you want to continue on the journey and start really deep diving, because, and I don't know your friend, Rax, you'll have to share her information so I can definitely familiarize myself. But like basically, you got to be at a certain attunement too to be able to understand a lot of this. So it's not just one level of work you got to do. It's several levels of work that you got to do to be able to understand and take this in, and then eventually be transmuted or transformed in an energetic way for it to make a difference in your existence. So I mean, I feel like intuitively you'll know who to pay, and where to get the information from and what resonates. But I mean, this brunch before lunch, like so much information is on here. Just this whole high level. Some people pop in and pop immediately out because they like, my brain is about to bust open. What the hell are they talking about? And it's like, yeah, you got to be at a certain level. I think we're doing well, and we'll do well to monetize it, whether it's your writings or a podcast or merchandise, because it can just be that. People just need to see certain words and things like that. If you slap it on a shirt, if you slap it on a hat, if you slap it on a pen, even that has an energetic uh, enhancement or digression to it. But I think we're all, finding our way correctly to the monetization part of it. And I think we'll be, walking each other home with the stacks very soon. Yeah, but remember too, this is like very, very esoteric knowledge. This is not, you know what I mean? It's only going to even call out to a chosen few. It's only going to be interesting enough for those that are resonating with this. This is a group ascension. This is like, only a few people are even realizing that they're going through this at this time. So, I know the reach is here and coming. This is why, you have it on several different platforms and people can go back and listen to it. And as world events unfold, it will give a push to what type of knowledge people need to start to search for. And then certain things will be happening in people's lives. So they will eventually say, hey, I gotta find out more. I gotta pay attention to these signs. Like earlier when you were speaking about the rooster, and I'm like, yes, that was for you. And that was a message in timing and resiliency for you. And it was coming after you had done the re-energizing of being around, you know, like minds and music and, things that you enjoy. Nothing is by mistake. It's all by design. And I mean finite design. You were speaking on the Akashic Records a couple weeks ago, and I've tapped into mine a little bit. And again, this is a lot of information that you're like, oh my gosh, but it makes perfect sense into where you are if you're aligned. You know what I mean? Otherwise, it can get more confusing, more overwhelming. But I'll say it like this: what I do know, like, nothing is coincidence. There is no randomization. And the universe is very alive in that it it's constantly speaking, constantly. It's constantly living. It's constantly pushing out information. Every little thing is something, depending on which dimensional level you can receive it at. I know we talked earlier about I think it was like and I don't even know what we talked about because I got rugged out and then so many phone calls and then all this other stuff started happening. But last thing I think we were talking about was the parental exception of the hybrid races and how that's the category in which we fall into. That's the category that I fall into. Um, and I've seen, well, I'm in touch with a lot of different of the races, the hybrid races, but small gray and um, Arcturian and uh, reptilian. Man, so quite a few actually. But this is real and true information that sounds completely made up until it's connected to things that people have maybe heard more information about, like the Nephilim, and how that is a hybrid race that is openly and generally accepted. It's written in, the scriptures, and people, you know, have heard that and understand that to be what it is. And yeah, there's, I think we were speaking on it earlier, the way that they went about creating things and how this movement now, the indigo, the star seeds to earth souls that are awakening are people who have been here with us, this entire time, who are understanding themselves in different ways. A lot of it is healing. We to call back the power so that you have to know, like you have to be, I think we've all had to be reflective in our childhoods. We've all had to be reflective in our relationships and see like, oh, I did go through that. That was something that happened. Why did I go through that? Oh, I did, I'm still healing from that. And then you find that this is bloodline work. You know what I mean? This is not just, you're carrying a lot in the way of energetic change for your past lives and, what is to come. So this is not, this ain't like a regular math class. You know what I mean? This is like digging deep, and this is breaking down reality. And this is breaking down people's like livelihoods and what they thought they were meant to do or be. And this is also a call to those who have special gifts and powers who, may have been slow about sharing them, or who have not been confident is what's coming through in the way that you've had these experiences. You've had connections with other dimensions, other worlds, other beings. You've dimensionally traveled via lucid dreaming. um you like, these are things that people that I've spoken to recently in the last like 48 hours, that they've tried to get clarity on what has happened to them, or they like, I remember I had a dream and ABCD happened. And it's like the fact that you can recall that and you can also remember the sensations, that energetic signature is written on your body. AKA it means something. Don't pass it off as, oh, a dream, or, oh, you know, I was high, or, oh, I was drunk. Yes, in those states of mind, you are more free and less of blocking the consciousness that can constantly flow. I heard you saying that Jonathan, you were talking about things being in flow now for you. And that's important. That's important for everybody. That's important to that level of surrender is not like what the human side wants to do. You know what I mean? That's not a place where people don't want to break down their walls or reality. We're just being made to do it now because it's gotten so obviously, um, the veil is eradicated. It's gotten so obviously open, and it's literally going to be about, at the end of the day, it will take an open heart. The mind work that we're doing is essentially just going to lead to an open heart. And eventually you'll be able to, tap back into those powers that, you've had the entire time. And more importantly, be sharing them. That's why I found this space and everything, because when I first started talking with y'all, Rax, you were speaking on, we started talking about the Reiki healing. And I'm like,
Mhm.
man, that's a journey I've been on for the last 3 years, that I've been tiptoeing around,
Mhm.
still learning, and every day, and being literally slapped in the face, with information, to where it's like, okay, finally I'm going to sit down, and finally I'm going to study this, and finally I'm going to see exactly where I'm feeling the
Mhm.
power resonating from, and all of that. So it's been a journey of shedding of old self, and understanding who you are in these you know beings, in these indigo beings, in these light bearers. And there's so many words, and it's going to be a lot of more information coming down. But those, again, that need to understand it in such a way to teach, because remember, that's what this is at the end of the day. Like, we are like taking on the I don't, it's not a burden. It's a privilege. We are taking on the privilege to have this information before others, so that it can be broken down into bite-sized, digestible pieces of information, and kind of made where people, it's got to be tailored, because each of these, I mean, you see how detailed this information is. I'm
No,
looking.
for sure. I think of a good term for it is like dragon medicine, right? Like that's something that the term gets thrown around a lot in the new age and stuff like that, but it's like it has very like ancestral roots and stuff like that. I think it's a powerful thing for people to explore that within themselves as well. And to really connect with what that means for themselves. You're talking about the dream world and reading dreams and things like that, and that's a big part of the dragon priestess lineages or whatever are
Yeah,
that is pretty much like what well, I shouldn't say pretty much, it's an aspect of that medicine. And I think that it's like like we all have the ability to access that if we want to dig deep enough and actually look back into our sort of ancestral roots and the practices and things that they had, and also use the tools that are available to us today to really find out um what were our indigenous ancestors doing, what were, because that is gonna help us to also put things together in our lives in a way that's more powerful as well than a lot of other things. So I mean, it's like, there's a lot of different aspects to it, and we're all kind of at different points of our journeys too. I mean, it's like I've had this database for like 6 7 years now, and I'm only just starting to talk about it openly with other people. For a long time I didn't know if I was ever going to find anyone outside of my couple, three friends, that could even have a detailed discussion about it, because often when I would bring it up, people would look at me like I'm crazy and not know anything that I'm talking about.
yeah, yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah. So, it's just nice to have some different people to discuss it with and be able to also just introduce the seed of thought to others as well too, because that's all it really takes at the end of the
Yes.
day, right? So
You said it, the seed of thought. And we know what can happen with just a mustard seed, like, and then often the way that this works too, depending on where you are dimensionally. And me and Jess, we've had conversations on the back end. I got to talk to Jonathan on the back end, because there's a lot to, talk. And I got to talk to Rax. I got to see Rax in person. We all got to get in the room together at some point, and then we'll see what happens then. But it's literally, I like how you say, Rex, walking each other home, and get shedding light into like what is really going on. And I'm finding it is extremely interconnected. It's extremely interconnected. So the information that we learn, we read, we share, then we go out into, our realities, and things start to happen. I start to see patterns in Jonathan's um world. I see patterns in Rack's world, my world, Justice's world. And it's like, oh, this again, here's the design again, you know? Um, and it's deep. You can't, I don't feel bad about not being able to have these conversations with too many people. I mean, not at this level, because I'm telling you, like yesterday, I went into a TikTok room because they had questions about alien hybrids and aliens and this and that. And I'm telling you, it was such a beautiful conversation. But the people, it's a lot to digest. So they'll just be like, "Oh, take a slow, go slow down, take a slow." Like what? Like wait, what? And then, even in the middle of it, even in things that are resonating, they'll be like, "Am I crazy?" Like they start to question their mind, and it's like, "No, we've been talking now for 2 hours." So you don't need to question your mind too much more in that these are true and real things that have happened in your 3D reality. You have witnesses, you have the goosebumps, you have the hair standing on the back of your neck. You have all that you need in your design to see that this is a real thing. But the mind still wants to protect itself. You know what I mean? And it's like, and that's natural. So it's not going to be a forceful thing. I love how the conversations flow. I love how we get to these pieces of information that we digest this. This is a lot of information. And this is the more that we're digging in this, I'm seeing that our charge again is to break this down even further. The original authors of this, the channelers of this information, that got it down so precisely. I mean, you can see there's numbers, there's letters, there's equations, 12 strand DNA. Uh, what? And this is depending on what DNA was paired to the other DNA, then we got another instance of DNA that has new coding and writings on it. So it's an ever evolving thing, and it's so much. So it's not even, we could never, all 40 pages of this, we could never, like, I don't want to say we could never truly understand. It's just that we only need to understand it at a certain level for it to energetically start to make the change in the 3D reality. And then you can see things in the 4D and in the 5D and in the 6D and then in the 7D. Like I said, have 15D is where the beginning is, the light, like the light. I'll just put it to that, like where it's nothing but the light that you get out of the darkness. And we have that in the Bible. Out of the darkness came everything. First the heavens and then the earth coding. But the heavens or the celestial has this mapping already. So even those who are, I don't want to
The
say
grid work.
afraid. Yeah, the grid work. Even those who don't want to tap into astrology or that at all. It's like, just take a look at it. Like Jonathan says, just look at it. Don't be stupid. Like just see if it's something that resonates with you. Just see if it's something that, I know what you've been told in regards to it, but if don't touch the stove, it's hot. We don't have to touch the stove to know it's hot. We could listen to that advice, right? But if you put your hand on that fire, that's that's different, right? That's an energetic signature that the body it knows now. Now you can walk around and explain to everybody how hot the fire is. You know what I mean? But only you steal the flame. You can. It's hard to explain, but each of us are to go through these experiences so that we have this. We have the storytelling ability now, and now we have technology to help tell the story and to connect the dots with each other. And then all of a sudden, oh, this gets deep. This really gets deep. Turns out
Wait.
I am you. Turns out you are me at a different time in another reality, living as another type of being, And so to make it simple and plain, I tell people, don't judge nobody. Don't judge nobody for nothing. because you are either them or have been them already or will be. So if you stay in your pure, constant state of love, and that frequency, that vibrational nature, then you don't got to do those things. That's why, like, things start to things and people start falling away from you so easily once you start ascending, vibrating at a different thing. You don't even see that person anymore. You don't even pass by that street anymore, or you're not even in that area anymore. And it's not hate. It's just once it's once you're vibrationally like unaligned or misaligned from something, until that thing gets to your level, you don't see that thing. You know what I mean? This is why you can heal yourself, or this is why you can do certain things with the mind, because you're at different levels, and we're all reaching these at different times. The good thing about us in this group is like we're at the same time here, you know. We're like finding each other at the same time, in which we're all making these strategic changes. And maybe they're strategic, maybe they're sloppy, maybe they're beautiful, maybe they're weird, but it is all happening, and we are, vibrationally connecting. Yeah. Yes.
Mm. You see that a lot in relationships, I think, too, especially with family. I notice, especially. It's hard for people to let go of toxic family dynamics and accept the family that they've chosen as the priority in their lives, you know. It's a lot of letting go, actually, I think, rather than just building and becoming. It's like, especially for people like indigos, because you already have a lot of things sort of that you have known about yourself and your mission and all these things from a young age, that when you go through life experiences that may be normal to others, or these sort of just like rites of passage of growing up, that depending on what kind of family you came from, like, that can be easier or harder, and it's like kind of 50-50 whether or not you're able to overcome a lot of things that present themselves as challenges, I think, in your younger years, especially as somebody who's meant to kind of teach others, because life puts you in scenarios where you do have to learn so that you can then teach, right? So it's yeah, it's a very dynamic and multifaceted subject, for sure. But yeah, that's even something I'm dealing with right now in my life, of just having to let people go. And I struggled with that a lot when I was younger, more so than I do now. I still struggle with it, but I know more in myself now how it's non-negotiable, and it's no longer an option for me to remain or keep people or allow them to be in my life when they're not raising my vibration, if they're bringing it down, whether consciously or unconsciously. Unfortunately, I had to sort of let go of one of my sisters recently, actually, well, two of them, because they're just, like I said, I'm the youngest actually of, well, four girls. One, my oldest sister, Tasha, has a different dad, so she's like my half sister, but I'm more connected with her now in my older age than I am with my other two sisters that are closer to me, because they're just living these sort of very materialistic lifestyles that I do not connect with personally. And it's just created a lot of sort of, rifts or whatever between us. But it took me a long time to accept that we are not the same, and they might never understand me, but I'm okay with that now. And, that's another part of all of this too, being able to, let go of the judgment of others because they will judge you. Like, it doesn't matter what you do, really. So you might as well at least be honest about who you are and, true to yourself. So,
Yeah. And the good, yeah, yeah, and honestly, um, in the gift, of course, you would tune it to. Okay, it's this way. Like, of course, it will be tuned to the negative pieces of it first, right? Remember that we're mostly around people who have not been in their true form. They've been in a mask, they've been a different avatar, they've been, they're trying to people please. They are living still for others and not for self. That's several people. That's, you know, like 6 out of 10 if you're, it may be even more, but it's like, so that's what you're gonna tune to first, of course, because that's where things are vibrationally in a lower scale. But the fact that there's the gift there, tune it to who in the room or who in the, you know friend circle, family circle can use it, and that you can use it's. I ain't gonna lie. Like the first, and I spoke to someone yesterday, and they spoke on the isolation of it all, the loneliness of it all, or the singularity, of it all. And I'm like, that's part of the design, um, so that you can tune to you yourself first, because you have to know your triggers, you have to know your strength, you have to know your powers before anybody else. Like, people, readers, um, can look and see what types of energies are surrounding your aura, and what you have and what you're emitting. But if you yourself have the ability to do that first and know that first, that's where you want to start, you know? And then that way, when you do meet others who are complementary or not to your energy, you can you can move accordingly. And again, it don't have to be hate or nothing like that. It's just they are not where you are. You're not where they're at. You once was there, or a version of you could get back to that if you allow the dissension of the energy instead of the, ascension of the energy. And even when that happens, it's nothing to like beat ourselves up about. It's just it's how it works. That's why it's always fine and constant retuning. Healing then leads to being healed, but then lends itself to finding something else to heal from. And that's how, the work is working. And then once you've gotten to a place of confidence, you can now share your information with someone else. And then that is empowering to them. And it's a chain, and it's a circle, it's an infinity. It's how it's supposed to work. But imagine that's not how it's going. Remember, everything that we're discussing now is opposite of what we've been taught. Like, this is not just, you know what I mean? So
yeah, it's
we
not
we
the
gotta be,
standardized
yeah,
body of
we gotta be
knowledge.
so patient.
Yeah.
We really can be so graceful and patient as the universe asks us to be, because that's how the universe operates. The universe is operating in grace and patience. The grass grows at its pace. You know what I mean? The flower comes out the ground at its pace.
Yeah, nature doesn't
Um,
rush, but everything's
yeah,
accomplished, right?
Yeah. See, earlier when we first got on, I was outside and I was putting my feet in the ground for grounding and looking around at the bees and looking around at all the insects and how they just are doing their thing. They ain't worrying about a thing. You know what I mean? They're just moving, and that's really where we are supposed to be. We're no different than the bee, than the flower, than the tree, than the grass. But in our form now, we don't we got a lot to fight about and a lot to like second guess about and a lot to relearn about our power. But if you look around, the power is naturally occurring all around us, you know? And it's just, if you don't get a minute, which they don't give you a minute, you got to work 70, 80 hours a week. You got a family, you got health issues, you got this, you got that. It just gets piled on to where you can't get a minute of stillness or solitude. You can't get a minute of mindfulness, you know? Oh, Jess' hand is up. I don't want to talk too long. That's low numbers. Yesterday it was an hour and a half
Oh
straight.
my God. I'm just over here doing my nails. I'm like listening to a podcast right now. It's dope. But the fact that we can be able to chime in with our own ideas is like even doper. So, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, with family and friends and like being able to feel the negativity just as much as, we are hearing it from them, and how Callie was saying like uh that negativity is always going to come first. And I feel like I've experienced a lot of that. Like Rax, I actually have two older sisters, and both of them are completely estranged. I'm the youngest, and these are my two older sisters. I always wanted that sisterly love, the relationship I saw on TV and stuff like that. It was never that. I was the only child of my mother and father. My mother had two kids, my brother and sister. My dad had one with his ex, which is my oldest sister, and um, they have never really liked me for whatever reason. And whenever I would talk to family about it, they'd be like, "Oh, it's jealousy. Don't even pay it attention." But it's like, this was my childhood. I just wanted to be a kid and have my sisters, and it never actually worked out like that. And I had to realize that that negativity was there to teach me more than one thing. It was there to teach me a lot, but also was giving me an opportunity to be able to recalibrate to the things that did serve me, to the things that was for me, and the things that I did love. And um, I think about what Esther Hicks says about changing the station. If you speak to someone and the first thing that comes out of their mouth is like negativity around politics or something like that, majority of the time I'll change this channel. Like I'll change the station on them, like, whether they know it or not, I will immediately go to that because I've had so much practice with my family. I've had so much practice with old friends and relationships and things like that. And I didn't even realize I was doing that until I had heard Esther Hicks talk about it. I'm like, I've been doing that my whole life. So now I've just gotten so good at it. And, things like me not having a relationship with the people that I grew up that are closest to me, it doesn't actually affect me or make me feel the feelings I used to have anymore, because I've
My bad. That was an accident. Sorry. I was trying to hit an
oh,
emoji. I
oh,
messed
I
up.
didn't
My bad.
even realize it happened, but I was just saying that it allowed me to grow from those feelings that I used to have. But yeah, I relate to you so much, Rax. Like, just this one space alone, I realized how much we actually have in common, and the fact that, like, you had said you were going to start your YouTube. I've already started my YouTube, and we're both going to be talking on there. Yeah, I mean, I could see Jonathan actually getting a bigger audience just from his regulars, you know? You, me, and Callie alike, we all do music, and there's a lot of talented people out there who actually want to talk about this information, but just like us, they're overthinkers and they don't want to not relate to their audience. So, I mean, hey.
That's why you get burnt out. That's well, high five too, just cuz. But yeah, no, I just relate to that a lot. What you were saying about the whole, being hard on yourself and, working until you burn out, stuff like that. That's where the whole balance thing's got to come in, trying to get a hold on taking the breaks before you get forced to take one and all that kind of stuff. Um, I'm still working through that myself because I just have so many things that I want to do, and I feel like I don't have enough time to do anything in the day, or life. But I come back to center and remember that it's all, everything in its time and everything like that. So, um, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about, had you heard about, I think maybe mentioned this in a recent space about the Schumann resonance 0 point that happened, and then something that was interesting to me was that there was also, I mean, there's also some spiritual teachers and stuff who think that the Kali Yuga recently ended on March 21st, and that there might have been like some correlation between the Schumann resonance 0 point and the end of the Kali Yuga to then sort of, create some sort of an energetic marking to where the energy is moving in the opposite way now, essentially ascending as opposed to descending as it was during the Kali Yuga, because that's what that was pretty much. Um, yeah, does anybody know what I'm talking about? Or
Is that
Yeah,
like the golden age? Like like us moving into the golden age now?
yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. I think it's supposed to be like the actual start of the age of Aquarius, kind of in a way.
yes, the Messianic and Aquarius and Golden Age, all of that, the 100 years piece, all of the ways that they've called it. And yeah, Rex, we spoke about it, I think 2 weeks ago, and I think we had even the picture of the Schumann
Mm-hmm.
resonance. Remember it when it went down to like to nothing, and I was speaking on that yesterday, how that's why we're in this time of change and awakening and ascension. And that's why the conversations are important, because it's
Mm-hmm.
really it's really happening on a scale that is this large. So
Mm-hmm. Well, excuse me. Oh, I was actually gonna just say, oh, sorry, Jonathan. What were you gonna say? Oh, I was just gonna say the because I was talking to Toth about this, right? And trying to see if it would give me information about the correlation of these events. Or if there is any really, or if he could, it could put something together for me. But it said the Schumann resonance refers to the Earth's natural like electromagnetic frequencies. It normally oscillates 7.83 hertz. The frequencies are generated by lightning strikes and are influenced by solar activity and atmospheric conditions. Occasionally, anomalies in the Schumann resonance are observed, such as spikes or drops in the frequency. Some interpret the anomalies as indicators of shifts in the Earth's energetic state, potentially affecting human consciousness. And then the Kali Yuga was in Hindu cosmology. The Kali Yuga is the fourth and final age in the cycle of the yugas, characterized by moral decline and spiritual degradation. Traditional texts state that the Kali Yuga began in 3102 BCE and is expected to last for 432,000 years, placing its end far in the future. However, alternative interpretations suggest a shorter duration. For instance, Bibu Dev Misra, proposes that the Kali Yuga will end on March 21st, 2025, marking a significant planetary transformation. The potential correlation, it says, is that some spiritual thinkers propose a connection between anomalies in the Schumann resonance and the transition out of the Kali Yuga. The idea is that significant changes in the Earth's electromagnetic frequencies could reflect or even facilitate a shift in human consciousness, aligning with the prophesized end of an age. And it's funny because a couple of months ago, I think it was like November or October last year, where I had a message from the Pattern, which is like an astrology app or whatever that I just have on my phone, and it gave me this message that said that it was the end of an era for like Capricorns, I guess. And I was like, that's interesting. Um, and then this perspective suggests that as we approach the end of the Kali Yuga, um, the Earth's energetic patterns, as experienced by the Schumann resonance, may undergo transformations that mirror the spiritual awakening and renewal anticipated in various traditions. Um, so I thought that was cool. But the three main sort of points or opportunities that have been discussed, like as an outcome of or sort of intention behind all this too, is for inner alignment, mindfulness, and then community connection. Um, so I thought that was just like resonant with everything. Oh, the Schumann resonance? Well, yeah, it's the electromagnetic field, right, of the Earth, so I just wanna, thank you guys for coming as usual, and hope everybody has a great rest of your day. Um, yeah, that's about it.
Um, well, I'll just be really quick. Thank you so much, Jonathan and Rax, for coming here and doing this space with us. This was awesome and I learned a lot, and I got to release a lot of things that I've been holding in, and it felt really good to do that and express myself freely with like-minded people. Um, yeah, I love you guys. So hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and I'll see you guys next week.
Awesome, awesome transformative conversation. Happy to be a part as always. Um, thank you for the space. Thank you for brunch before lunch. Thank you, Rax, for diving deep. Thank you, Jonathan, for being the host and staying committed to it.